Hi guys, Jess here. Today I'm going to show you how to make prize-winning strawberry jam. So often I see people making homemade strawberry jam and it's that horrible dark caramelly colour, almost brown, let alone red, and it's just sweet. It just tastes sweet and almost like burnt sugar. And the reason for this is that they overboil it because there's so little pectin in strawberries. Or so it's believed as well. There's so little pectin in strawberries that people tend to boil and boil and boil trying to get a natural set. Now, if you abandon that idea and forget about trying to get a natural set, kind of put your pride aside and say, okay, I'm going to use some liquid pectin, then you can really concentrate on getting the best flavour and the best colour possible for your strawberry jam. And that's what I intend to show you today. And believe me, this recipe is so simple and so pure in its strawberryness, if you like, that it will win you prizes at local shows. The only thing that it will be down to you to do is to understand the presentation requirements of your local show, and make sure that you conform to those. But I guarantee you that the flavour and the colour of this strawberry jam recipe will win you prizes. Now, as you can see, I'm just hulling these strawberries and cutting them in half for the smaller ones and in quarters for the larger ones. Now what we want to do is we want to extract as much of the flavour and as much of the colour out of these strawberries without overcooking them, without introducing too much heat. The more heat you put into strawberries or any fruits that have a really aromatic flavour, the more you will drive the flavours away, and in the same way the more you will turn the colours from their vibrant, in this case red, into a browny, caramelised kind of a colour. So we want to introduce as little heat as possible and extract as much flavour and colour. Now, I only want strawberries as well, so I'm not even going to have any lemons anywhere near this. I even saw somebody the other day putting crystallised ginger in their strawberry jam. What's that all about? Why don't you just make ginger jam? Beats me, but we're going to not even use a lemon. What we're going to use to extract the flavour and the colour is citric acid, pure and simple. And that will pull out all of the flavour and all of the colour, and believe it or not, it will also pull out every last bit of pectin there is in there. So quite often with this recipe, even though you've abandoned yourself to the fact that you're going to use extra liquid pectin, sometimes you'll find you don't need to put it in anyway. So, it can be a win-win situation. So, to start with, hull all the strawberries, halve the small ones, quarter the large ones down the middle, like that. Okay, then you want a fairly small saucepan. Do this in small batches if you can. This is 400 grams, these 400 gram punnets of strawberries that you see in the supermarket. Quite convenient. They make one good jar, so if you're making it for shows, then you can concentrate on getting one perfect jar. Obviously you can up all the quantities. If you're just making it for yourself, you can throw it around, do what you like with it. It's still going to be the best strawberry jam you've ever tasted, whether you're sending it to a show or whether you're eating it yourself, believe me. But you want a smallish saucepan for the amount of strawberries, as small as you can get away with. My rule of thumb is use a saucepan that the strawberries, when you've got as many as you're going to use, will come about a third of the way up the saucepan when they're just raw and put in there. So this is the size I'm using for that many. It'll come about a third of the way up there. The first thing you want to do is just wet the bottom of the saucepan. Okay, so put some water in, swill it around and chuck it away in the sink. There is a sink there, by the way, I'm just throwing it on the floor. Then put your strawberries in. Okay. And for 400 grams of strawberries, let me get them in there. For the 400 grams of strawberries, you need to add 1 level teaspoon of citric acid. You can buy citric acid from any brewer's supplies or from Amazon these days, no problem at all. So 1 level teaspoon of citric acid, and just shake it over like it was sugar on your strawberries, you know, on a bowl of strawberries when you shake the sugar over them. There we are, 1 level teaspoon. Now that is going to go on the lowest heat you can possibly get on your cooker, and with a lid on it. Now try and have a saucepan that's got a glass lid, because we don't want to take this lid off at all. We want to keep as much of the steam, as much of the vapour in as we possibly can. So if you've got a glass lid, you can see what's going on. You can give them a shake about, so on. So I've got a glass lid for this. I'll be putting it on the lowest heat I've got, and I'll be just heating it slowly through for about 20 minutes. Ideally, the kind of heat you want is for it to come to a really gentle simmer after about 10 minutes. So we're talking very low heat. Now remember, there's no water in the bottom of there, so to start with, give them a little shake. I mean, we've dampened the bottom of the saucepan, but just to be sure, give them a little shake every few minutes to start with, until you start to see their own juices oozing out. And then of course there'll be enough juice there for them not to stick or harden to the bottom. Okay, so that wants 20 minutes, and for the last 5 minutes hopefully it'll be simmering. Now we'll go away for 20 minutes and we'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like, because it's quite interesting really. So we'll let that happen, and I'll be back in 20 minutes. See you guys. Okay, so here we are 20 minutes later. You can't see me, which is probably an advantage, but I've set up the camera in this way because it's really important that you actually see what's been going on here in the saucepan. You'll see that the strawberries have gone down not to a complete mush. They are still as individual pieces, and you'll also see that they're almost white. If I can pick one out and drain the juice off, they are very, very much more white than they were. Let me show that to you on the camera. Very much more white than they were. Now what's happened is all the colour has come out of that and gone into the juice, and the citric acid has pulled that out, and it's also pulled all the pectin out. Now, and of course it's pulled all the flavour out, which is very important. Now don't worry that the strawberries look a bit insipid and white. They can actually, at the moment these look a lot better than they often do. Sometimes they look absolutely white, and that's a bit of a worry. But it isn't, because once you've put the sugar in and boiled it up again, you will find that the colour comes back in the strawberries and they look absolutely fine. Now as you can see from my saucepan, I've had a bit of a boiling over. You must be careful as it starts to get to boiling point and the strawberries soften, you can get quite an eruption, so make sure you keep your eye on it. I've managed to boil mine over because I walked away to do something else, which is not clever. Make sure you keep an eye on yours, because you want to keep as much of this juice as you can. As you can see, there's lots and lots and lots of juice in there. Now that is pure strawberry. There was no water. If you remember, all I did was just wet the bottom of the pan to stop the strawberries from sticking. Okay, so this is all pure strawberry in here now. So all we've got to do now is, the rest of this is a pretty quick process. We add 500 grams of sugar to the 400 grams original strawberries, and immediately we keep the lid off this time, and we put the temperature up full. Okay, and we're going to mix, take a wooden spoon, we're going to mix the sugar in, dissolve that. Okay, make sure that's completely dissolved, give that a good stir, make sure the sugar is completely dissolved. Okay. Now I've let mine cool down a bit because I've chatted away to you, but if you keep yours hot, it shouldn't take long for that sugar to dissolve, and then you need to bring this all to a rolling boil. Okay, so here we are. You can start to see this come to a boil now, and you can see the scum forming in the middle. The bubbles are coming around the edge, and they're pushing the scum into the centre. Now just want to give it a gentle stir around, make sure nothing sticks. And this is coming up to the rolling boil now. Now we've reached the rolling boil, turn it down. Okay, just turn it down. Once it comes to the top, it's starting to boil up the sides, turn it down, and you want to hold that then for about 30 seconds. Okay, so we want to hold this rolling boil for about 30 seconds. In the process, you can I use a spoon rest, take this scum away. Take a first de-scumming. You can see me taking as much of the scum away as I can on this first pass. Okay, let's turn that back up to keep it at a rolling boil. Okay. And that's probably enough. We can now turn that off. That's how quick it is. Okay. Now this will probably set on its own, and it's worth testing. You can see that's beautiful jam consistency. That's got all the hallmarks. That lovely, the heat's completely off now, and this is only very slowly coming back down. All those lovely foamy bubbles. That's got all the hallmarks of a jam that will set on its own. So it's probably worth putting a little drop out on a saucer. Okay, and do the saucer test to see if you'll get a set. That is worth putting aside to see if you'll get a set. If you do get a good enough set, then you might as well not bother to add the liquid pectin. I'm going to add it though, just to show you for completeness the whole process, so you don't have to worry about whether it sets or not. So all we do is then add a splash. I'm going to guess, but it's about 40 mils for the 400 grams. I'm going to guess mine. Pour that in. That's more than adequate. Then bring it back to the boil for one more roll. Hold it there. This should come back to the boil fairly rapidly. Now you can see another load of scum appearing. This shouldn't take long to come back to the boil. There we are, we're coming back up to the rolling boil again. And there it is, you can see the scum appearing in the middle. Now you can see that's going to set. Look at the way that the scum is crinkling. There's no problem with that setting at all. Just bring that up to the boil, wait a few seconds, and off. And that is your strawberry jam finished. Okay? It's as simple as that. And look at the colour we've got. It's absolutely fantastic, and believe you me, the flavour is equally as good. Now, if you want to use this for show jam, this is where the fiddly bit starts. What you've got to try and do is you've got to try and get all the scum out and off the top and away from the bits of fruit. Okay, so you've got to try and carefully drag this scum away as much as you can. And if you're going to do it for show, you really do need to spend some time doing this, guys. And it's well worth it in the end. And you need to drag it away. What will happen, unfortunately, is it will stick to the bits of fruit. The more you can get away while it's still very hot, the better. And once you've managed to remove all your scum, all you have to do then is leave the jam to start, just to start to gel. It's just starting to set. And then you want to pick out the best bits of fruit. Probably, I don't know, a dozen bits of fruit, and stick them in the bottom of your regulation jar, whatever the show says you need. And then very carefully pour the rest of the jam over the top of it, really slowly. And what you hopefully will, and then obviously seal it up tight. And what you'll hopefully find is that the fruit will slowly rise and settle somewhere in the middle. Now that process takes a lot of practice. You know, it's one of those things that you have to get a feel for. Obviously, if you're having it for yourself, then there's no problem at all. You can just let it set a bit, obviously, before you pour it in your jar, but just pour the whole thing in the jar. It doesn't matter if the strawberries come a bit close to the top and they don't even out completely, because it's for yourself. But if you want it for a show, you're going to have to practice to get those strawberries evenly distributed. But I guarantee you that that jam will A, set, and B, will be the most beautiful colour and the most beautiful flavour. And if you're like me, one final thing, and you're not too keen on the bits of strawberry in there, I just don't like them, I don't like the pips. All you have to do with this jam as it is now is pour it through an ordinary kitchen sieve, and what it will give you is, hey presto, a beautiful jar of strawberry jelly. And I tell you what, that on a bit of Cornish ice cream is heaven on earth. So there you go, show-winning strawberry jam. Simple, isn't it? No problem at all. And I think we may find that it was going to set anyway. There you are. You're going to get a set anyway. If you look, where's the camera? There it is. There you are. That's made a perfect set. We didn't actually need the Certo. And a little tip, if you are going to have it for a show, I would make sure you test it first at that stage, because this jam now, because it was going to set, and I've put some Certo in, may be slightly overset to win a competition. You know, some of the points are given for exactly how well it's set, and you can lose points for overset. So it is worth testing after that first rolling boil to see if it's going to set on its own. If it's not, don't worry about using the liquid pectin. So there you go, that's my recipe for stunning strawberry jam. Hope you win some shows with it. Until next time, see you guys.